Attack on Titan show was based on a Japanese legend of giants during World War II. There's islands by Japan and Australia called the Solomon Islands, and during World War II, that's where the Japanese were stationed. So many Japanese soldiers had stories of them seeing like 8 to 15 foot tall giants with like black and brown and red hair. They called them Titans. So then a researcher went to the Solomon Islands during the 70s and he wrote a book about it. He asked the locals about the legends of the giants. They said there's giants that live in the deep jungles of the islands, because those are parts of the islands that nobody ever been to. They said there's like caves that they said that they lived in, and like they was talking about how giants will come into the towns and like the villages and they would eat people. The village leaders and chiefs would send like soldiers out to go kill them, but every time they would be less and less and less. And then the researcher was saying over the like thousands of years, the giants were like using humans as like livestock and eating them. Like they ate so many humans that they couldn't like breed together. So that's why there's not a lot of like people there. The attack on
Solomon Islands is known as the very location where giants live. And enduring legends passed down through generations of the natives in the Solomon Islands is that of monstrous giants. Tradition has it that these huge creatures live in caves and inhabit underground spaces that connect the islands. Depending on who you ask, some people think the giants are good, others think they are evil and dangerous, with stories about these giants hunting, killing, and even eating people. For a long time, this was thought of as stories, but after much research from multiple people, these stories are starting to show signs of truth. The Solomon Islands have a long and interesting history going back hundreds of years. According to legend or history, King Solomon of Israel sent his trade ships all over the world to find the most valuable goods. The wealth of King Solomon is something that existed and was documented not just in the Bible, but in other literary works, and a lot of people coveted the wealth spoken about by King Solomon. The Spanish explorers during the Age of Exploration knew a lot about this history from the Bible and used it as a map, following the same trade paths and stories that were written in old Jewish texts. The islands were finally found by a Spanish explorer named Álvaro de Mendaña de Neira in 1568. He sailed the seas from Peru and came across these beautiful, untouched islands. Mendaña was sure he had found the spot where King Solomon got the gold for his temple in Jerusalem, and named the islands the Solomon Islands in honor of King Solomon. The rumors about the vast riches went viral for hundreds of years, and people from all over the world set out to find out about this island's claimed gold deposits. However, Mendaña's claims of finding gold have never been proven, but modern companies have been able to excavate a lot of gold from the same islands that Mendaña explored. This led many people to think that maybe he was right, and there could still be a large amount of it, still buried somewhere in the earth, waiting to be found. But weirdly enough, that is not what the Solomon Islands are famous for. Instead, the Solomon Islands is known as the very location where giants live. The Solomon Islands.
Bear with me here. There's been eyewitnesses of UFOs. News you actually want to hear. It's possible there could be an underwater alien base located in the Solomon Islands. Bear with me here. There's been eyewitnesses of UFOs flying over the water, over the warships that sank in World War II, and then would fly down into the ocean, and then vanish into jungle lakes into the island. It's very interesting it happens to be just where the military ships are. There's reports of them flying in and out of volcanoes. Like, what do they have down there? There's also been reports of abductions where they've never seen that person again. This is where it gets insane. Solomon Islands were believed to be inhabited by giants at one point. There are many who believe that the giants still live in huge caverns under the island. Apparently the people on the island believe in something called a Doro. It's like a merman, half fish, half man. But what if at one point the Solomon Islands had just an extreme importance to extraterrestrial life? News you actually hear. It's possible there
giants, UFOs, spiritual entities, and cursed islands. These are the stories and legends of Solomon's Island. Solomon Island consists of 1,000 isles that makes up the structure. This is ancient ruined structures and also a site for where World War II took place. Many battles and many tragedies have occurred on the island, and there are still remnants of a past history that is shrouded with war and violence that plagues the land of Solomon. Those who are native to Solomon Island claim that Solomon Island is inhabited by giants. They say that these giants are up to 200 plus feet tall and that they are covered in long black dreadlocks. They also have many accounts of seeing lights over Solomon Island, lights that can be attributed to what we call UFOs. During some of the research done in the 1900s, workers claim that one of their machinery had broke down. The machinery contained a heavy blade that was used for digging, and they said they had left it overnight. When they returned to the dig site the next morning, they say that the blade was moved a significant amount of feet and that there were giant footsteps left behind. In 1907, during the European colonization of Micronesia, German Governor Victor Berg visited Namadal, and despite warnings from the natives, he visited many temples that were said to have haunted history. The governor took it as hocus pocus and started opening tombs that belonged to some of the ancient rulers. The rest of the night was filled with paranormal activity, and the next day, the governor was unalive. The cause of death was said to be sunstroke and heat exhaustion. A part of Solomon Island is actually submerged underwater and is what the locals call Kanimwiso, which is known as City of the Gods. It is possibly an advanced underwater base, and locals have left this part of the island uninhabited for more than 400 years. Aside from the giants, the UFOs, and the cursed ruins that the natives talk about, they also have talked of some islands actually vanishing. In October 2012, scientists on a research ship between Australia and New Caledonia set course for an island called Sandy. They followed the coordinates and realized the island was actually gone. Digital data showed that the island was 15 miles long and 3 miles wide, which was the size of Manhattan, and they said that there was actually no evidence of a sunken landmass. So it begs the question, where did this island actually go to? Another island that disappeared was said to be home to otherworldly beings, according to the natives, and that island was known as Hy Brasil, which is in the North Atlantic 200 miles west of Ireland, which is the home of the Tuatha De Danann, which are the ones who created the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man was said to be founded by these otherworldly beings who descended from heaven on a cloud of mist. It was said that the Tuatha De Danann, according to the Christian era, were kicked out of heaven because of their knowledge and their sorcery, but pre-Christian texts say different. Witness testimonies date back to the 14th century when the island of Hy Brasil was actually depicted on a map. It is said to have been over 600 years since anyone has actually seen the island. In 1325 is when the island was actually discovered. In 1497, another explorer recorded his trip to the island of Hy Brasil as well. In 1674, an Irish captain found silver and gold on the island, and he claimed that he got this silver and gold from an old mysterious man. He also said that the island was inhabited by giants. He claimed that these giants were in the form of black rabbits, and this captain was Captain John Nisbet. There is no doubt that the island of Hy Brasil has been witnessed by many. It is said that the island is protected by spiritual powers, and these spiritual powers have advanced technology to where they can cloak the entire island and have it be invisible to the naked eye. Other eyewitness testimonies lay claims that the island of Hy Brasil was preoccupied by fairies, gods, goddesses, demigods, leprechauns, glowing people, and other strange creatures and beings. Even one of the first Irish historians named Roderick O'Flaherty wrote about the island of Hy Brasil in 1684. He also said that the island was magical and it was enchanted. The mysterious island of Hy Brasil was last to have been seen in 1872 by author T.J. Westropp and his crew. They said that they saw the island and then it just vanished.
20 on the shot.
There are some good giants that show up in these stories that they talk about. However, few and far between. And I think that also lends to this good Nephilim theory that I've been building on the past year and a half, that the majority of these giants are generally bad or evil. It's just their makeup, their DNA, but it doesn't mean that there aren't ones that can't break free of that particular DNA construction. And I think that, especially as he's breaking down these stories, he talks about there being some really upper tier good giants on the island that are battling with some of these evil forces that are going on underneath the earth. But The reason why that they're there in this particular area, maybe it's because that these Solomon Islanders have referred to the ancient name for the Solomon Islands as Mu. And there's a sect of giants called Mu. And Marius connects the two. He said, well, there has to be something there, that these giants are called Mu. This place is called Mu. Now, he never breaks down the Mu part of it. And I knew just from research I've done in the past that Mu is a lost continent. It was first introduced by Augustus Le Plongeon, who identified the land of Mu with Atlantis. So I knew that the name that was floating around, since the early 1800s, Mu was the lost land of Atlantis. Also, it was connected with the land of Lemuria, which James Churchward brought about in the mid 1800s. And both of those names are generally connected as the same place, but they're both connected to Atlantis. So now we have this Mu. The islanders all say that the ancient name for the Solomon Islands is Mu. The islands is a collective, but we also know that islands in the Solomon Islands have sunk. So what if this Mu was collectively the Solomon Islands, maybe the main hub sunk in some sort of battle or whatever else, if you want to go down the Atlantis route. But what if these giants are derivative of that ancient land of Atlantis? What if the technology that powered this Mu was off of some sort of these stones that are underneath the earth that they're mining? I mean, listen, we know of UFOs going in and out of the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. We know that they're all indications they're mining there. All of these deep places around the earth is where we see these. He sees this bright, luminous white object flying slowly over the water. He calls out to his wife to bring the binoculars, and he focuses on it, and he said it's like a star. It was brightly lit, and it was about 60 foot around, and it made no noise. They watched it for a few minutes, and it submersed back into the sea. So this goes back to the thought pattern that a lot of these UFOs are not coming from above. They're coming from underneath the earth, underneath the sea. All of these weird spaces throughout the sea that we don't even know about, because we know very little about the ocean. But there have been, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of reports, Navy ships seeing these things come out of the water. So you're going to find this a big theme in this book. You're going to find what Marius has to talk about in this book as very, very interesting, because to him, everything comes from underneath. He never talks about things coming from the sky. And he talks about all of these cave systems, all of these underground tunnels that actually connect the islands, that all of these things are coming out of. He sees this bright.
These Japanese soldiers encountered these giants at their camps and stuff at night. These giant men, which were reported to be 8 to 15 feet tall, red hair, would come and just eat the Japanese soldiers, rip them apart and just eat them right there on the spot.
Like no cooking.
No cooking. Just destroyed them. It's giants of Solomon Islands.
Again?
Yes.
They're back?
Because I was so fascinated by Corey's story. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I want to hear more if there's like more encounters and stuff. Apparently, there's rich history of giants regarding the Solomon Islands.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm going to take you back on this little journey through history. So Vietnam started taking over the Solomon Islands because they were going to be a pivotal region of islands to cut off trades with like Australia and stuff. So they're just trying to take over the whole Pacific at this point, right?
Cool.
They get to the Solomon Islands. Specifically, this story regards Guadalcanal, which Corey talked about.
Right.
Which is one of the islands, or this part of the island, Big Island. And they were there, right? And then the U.S. came, and they came to Guadalcanal, and there was no Japanese to be seen.
Uh-oh.
So they were coming in thinking that it was going to be like a
ambush.
Yeah, like a D-Day kind of thing where they're going to have to fight and stuff to get claim over Guadalcanal. No resistance. They just pulled up to the beach. They're like, where are all the Japanese soldiers?
You gotta be kidding me.
Turns out all the Japanese soldiers
We're done.
were in the woods or the forests of the Solomon Islands, this Guadalcanal. And what the locals had said was that these Japanese were picked off by giants.
Yeah.
And talking about, like, so the Japanese go in there and they were attacking U.S. soldiers as the U.S. soldiers were coming in, but a lot of Japanese soldiers surrendered to
Yeah, they're like,
the
get me
U.S.
out of here,
troops,
please.
which is not what the Japanese army would do at that time, because what did they say? It was, the Japanese said that survival after defeat was a disgrace. So basically, instead of surrendering, the custom for a Japanese soldier was to kill themselves with the knife.
The short sword.
Yeah. But they surrendered because they were apparently so freaked out of what was happening.
Yeah.
But supposedly these giants, these Japanese soldiers encountered these giants at their camps and stuff at night.
These towering giants have a storied history, dating back to the mythic lore of the Solomon Islands. Imagine creatures said to be over 10 feet tall, roaming the dense jungles, instilling both fear and fascination. Known as the Megalania, these cosmic giants are believed by some to have once terrorized the islands, their footsteps echoing through time. Islanders speak of encounters through vivid oral traditions, describing immense strength and mysterious powers. Some claim these giants vanished into the mountains, while others argue they never existed. Either way, they remain an intriguing part of the island's rich tapestry, where folklore and reality intertwine, capturing the world's imagination.
The Devil of Vale, a true story of the Solomon Islands. Deep in the forests of Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands, there is a name people whisper only in fear: Vele. It is not a creature, but something darker. A human curse, a form of sorcery that brings sickness, madness, and death. In one remote village in 2020, tragedy struck. Several villagers began dying mysteriously. No doctor, no medicine could explain it. Fear took root. The elders named the cause Vele. They accused one man of controlling it. One night under a blood-red moon, the village gathered. The accused was dragged into the forest, bound tightly as the air grew thick with chants and cries. He screamed not like a man, but like something unnatural. Then silence. Since that night, villagers speak of strange sounds, whispers, footsteps, laughter, coming from the dark forest. They say it is the spirit of the man who practiced Vele.
What if I told you this has ties to this?
Okay, now somebody tell me what's going on here. This video of these massive giants have been floating around on the dark web. Y'all take a real good look at this video. Could this be our lost history? And the animals was huge. This is wild. Look at this funny guy. Okay, now it's time for a quick history lesson, family. Now, in the early 20th century, the Hawaiian people spoke about giants being on their islands. They would speak about how these giants lived in harmony with the land. These enormous giants will guard the island and their people from outside threats. Legend has it that they are the guardians from the Hawaiian Islands. And some people would like to call it Solomon's Island. These giants were said to be between 10 and 15 feet tall. Once upon a time, these giants was little people. Now the legend go, these people would mate with animals and they would become giant. So this animal DNA would change them into a whole new product. They are the protectors of Maui. They are the guardians of Solomon, the guardians of the souls of man.
Why did Solomon and Cain's bloodline both crash? It's the exact same reason. In 4004 BC, God created Adam and Eve. They had two sons, Cain and Abel. Cain murdered his brother and got exiled. His kids? Absolute geniuses. They invented instruments, forged steel, and started the whole polygamy thing. Super rich, super smart, but total rebels. Result? Wiped out by the flood. Now look at Solomon, born from his father's biggest mistake. Started great, built the temple. But then, he copied Cain's kids. 1,000 women, foreign idols in the holy city. Both had the bag, both had the brains, but zero obedience. The flood took Cain. The kingdom split for Solomon. Coincidence? No, it's the price of betrayal. Is wealth a blessing or a poison? What do you think? Check the link below to...
And from what he could put together, there was some kind of UFO base deep in the mountains of central Guadalcanal, and it involved these giants. And at the same time, there was some kind of underwater UFO base there as well.
Eyewitness accounts of UFOs have been documented on the Solomon Islands for years. And mysteriously, details reveal that the UFOs seem to rise out of the surrounding ocean where warships sank in World War II and vanish into a remote mountain lake on the island.
People often talk about seeing light not only in the sky, but in the ocean as well. That you see lights in the ocean, and then you see lights flying past overhead as well, and sometimes crashing into the ocean, like a plane crashing.
There have been sightings of flying saucers appearing over the wreckage, flying into and out of mountains and volcanoes in the area. So the whole area is really pretty interesting.
There have been reports that objects, strange lights, actually rise up out of the waters into the air and move about for a period of time and then disappear. And often this is either witnessed from the beach or is experienced at close hand by fishermen. And it's said that sometimes these objects come so close that the fishermen can actually feel the heat as they pass.
Alright, we gotta start explaining this thing, because people keep repeating the same rhetoric and stuff like that. Oh, black women and actually got blonde hair and black people be naturally. Yes, they could be naturally, but it's rarely. It rarely happens. It's like, I'm not gonna even give you the how many, like 1 in 100 or something like that, but it's rare. You don't walk into a class of 30 and see 20 blondes or 10 blondes or something like that. You might see one. Now, there's 3 different genetic pathways to blonde hair. All right? Alright, so African Americans and people in the Western Hemisphere, you know, blonde or light hair in African American people is usually due to a variant called MC1R. And that also goes in with the genetic and the environmental factor and stuff like that, giving more likely the hair texture and everything like that, the 4C, 4A type hair texture. How it works, the variant in the MC1R gene reduces the production of the lumen, basically the melanin, and increases the phenolmelanin, the lighter pigment, resulting in light brown, auburn, or blonde hair. The common features is hair colors range from light brown to blonde, often having like a golden, honey, or reddish tone texture. I have family members like that, so people keep bringing it up and up, knowing damn well this is not the type of black woman I'm talking about that be putting blonde hair in their head. Black people love bringing up the Melanesian people. Let me let y'all know this for one. The reason that theirs is different because theirs is basically because they're like closely related. They are so much isolated away from people that they didn't really start mixing in with people, mostly white people and people from Southeast Asia until maybe 1,000 years ago, if that. So anyway, their blonde is called TYRP1, and it's a naturally blonde hair. It's common in the Melanesian populations like the Solomon Islands and stuff like that. How theirs work basically is it reduces the dark lumen the same way and result in a blonde or light colored hair color or reddish tone. Is their hair often appears golden, reddish blonde, often corally texture. The mutation is natural and genetically distinct from European blonde hair. It's like literally not the same and stuff like that. This hair texture is the hair texture portrayed in most wigs. This right here, this is portrayed in wigs. Not the hair texture that y'all be always bringing up. This is the hair texture portrayed in wigs. Blonde hair in European population. This is the MC1R pathway. You know, it's coming from the northern regions. Now this is the hair texture that y'all be putting on as wigs. This hair texture is European. This is white women. Black women do not have this hair texture. This MC1R is different even to the MC1R pathway of black people. They got the same